Today we're going to learn how to add and subtract decimals, and we're going to learn a strategy for how to do this without using a calculator. So for our first example, we want to add 8 decimal 85 plus 12 decimal 25 plus 10 decimal 9 plus 9 decimal 65. And our strategy is to use something called front-end estimation. So what that means is before we actually add these numbers together, we're going to estimate to see what our answer should roughly be. So we're going to start by estimating. And what we have to do in front-end estimation is we have to take the front number in each of our decimals and add them together. So the front number in 8 decimal 85 is an 8. The front number in 12 decimal 25 is a 12. The front number in 10 decimal 9 is the 10. And the front number in 9 decimal 65 is the 9. So in order to do our estimate, I want to know what is 8 plus 12 plus 10 plus 9. And if I add all of those together, I should get an answer of 39. So when I actually add these numbers, I should get somewhere close to 39 for my answer. Now in order to actually add them together, I have to write down all my numbers without decimals. So in order to do that, I first need to make sure that each of my numbers has the same number of decimal places. So my first number, I have 2 decimal places, an 8 and a 5. My second number, I have 2 decimal places, a 2 and a 5. My third number, however, I only have 1 decimal place, which is a 9. Since I have 2 decimal places in the other 2, I have to make this one have 2 decimal places by adding a 0. So now I have 9 and 0, which make 2. And my last one is good because I have 2 decimal places, a 6 and a 5. So what I do is I write down my numbers without the decimals, so 8, 8, 5. I write my next number down, and you have to make sure that all my place values line up. So my ones place, I kind of write it backwards. Okay, and then I have my 10, 90, and then I have my 965. So as you can see, I've got all of my place values lined up. So if I add those together, 5 plus 5 plus 5 is 15. Carry the 1. 1 plus 8 plus 2 plus 9 plus 6 is 26. So I'll put my 6 down. Carry the 2. 2 plus 8 plus 2 plus 0 plus 9 is 21. Carry my 2. And 2 plus 1 is 4. So if I look at my answer without decimal places, I have 4,165. So what I have to do is look back at my estimate for 39, and I want to place my decimal so that I can make this number as close to 39 as possible. So if I were to put my decimal between the 6 and the 5, I'd have 416, which is too big. If I put my decimal between the 1 and the 6, I'd have 41 decimal 65. That's pretty close. So if I check my other possibility, if I put my decimal between the 4 and the 1, I'd have 4 decimal 1, which is too small. So in saying that, that means my decimal must go right here between the 1 and the 6, and that gives me the answer that's closest to 39. I can follow the same strategy for subtracting. So I want to know what's 12 decimal 21, subtract 9 decimal 65. So, like the last time, the first thing that I do is estimate using front-end estimation. So my front number is 12 and 9. So this time, if you'll notice, I'm subtracting. So my estimate is going to be 12 subtract 9. Well, if I want to do 2 subtract 9, I don't have enough. So I have to borrow from here, gives me 0. And I put my 1 here, so that's 12 subtract 9, which gives me a 3. So when I actually subtract these numbers, I want my answer to be as close to 3 as possible. So if I actually work this out now and I do the subtraction, the same as the last time, I want to subtract them without decimal places, and I'm good because you notice there are 2 decimal places here and there are 2 decimal places here, so I don't have to add any numbers. So I'm going to write 1, 2, 2, 5 and 9, 6, 5, and I'm going to subtract them. And if you notice, my 1s line up, my 10s line up, my 100s line up, so they're all lined up according to place value. So 5 subtract 5 is 0. 2 subtract 6 I can't do. I don't have enough to take 6 away from. So I have to borrow from this 2. This becomes a 1 and this becomes a 12. So 12 subtract 6 is 6. And now my next number says 1 subtract 9. And again, 1 is not enough, so I have to borrow from here. That gives me 0, which gives me a 0, which makes this an 11. And 11 subtract 9 is 2. So I have an answer without decimals of 260. So I have to put a decimal in here somewhere to make this number as close to 3 as possible. If I put my number between the 6 and the 0, I'll have 26, which is a little bit high. But if I put my decimal between the 2 and the 6, that would give me 2 decimal 6, which is really close to 3. So I'm going to put my decimal there, and my answer becomes 2 decimal 60.